Hi, welcome to ECCb Connects, a production of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank where we share with you who we are, what we do, and how we serve you. In this episode, we speak with Deputy Director in the Financial Sector Supervision Department, Gillian Skerritt, about the project to modernize the payment system in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. She also discusses how the enhanced legislation takes into account advances in the financial sector. Stay connected. We'll share more with you when we get back. Gillian, welcome to ECCb Connects.
Thank you, Karina.
The ECCb has embarked on a project to modernize the payment system across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. First off, explain to us what is the payment system?
Karina, the payment system is the means by which financial transactions are settled through the transfer of monetary value. And with that, there's a whole host of other components. We have the rules that govern systems, the people who use the systems, the legislation, the infrastructure. All of that comprises
The payment system. Great. Why is there a need to modernize this payment system at this time?
Well, it is something that is being undertaken globally. Most central banks are very much interested in modernizing their payment system. The payment system is the lifeblood of the financial system. And if we don't have an efficient, modern, safe arrangements underpinning the system, certainly financial stability can be threatened.
So this modernization, as you said, is seeking to address, take into account the advances and the evolution that has happened so that the people and the players operating in the payment system remain safe.
This work that we are currently doing started in earnest, I would say, back in 2017, when the World Bank did an assessment of the ECCU payment system and discovered, that assessment revealed things that we were doing correctly, things that we could improve upon, and certainly some deficiencies. So after that 2017 assessment, the central bank adopted the principles for financial market infrastructures. Those principles are the international benchmarks as to how we should operate and how we should oversee the payment system. Coming out of the 2017 assessment, the bank embarked on developing a new vision and a strategy for the improvement and modernization of the payment system. One significant part of that strategy is the new legislation. This is going to underpin everything that we do. It is the Payment System and Services Bill. This legislation is modern, it is principle-based, it focuses on people and systems and safety. The draft Payment System and Services Bill was approved by the Monetary Council in July of 2022. At the moment, the Payment System Development and Oversight Unit is reviewing the legislation in country with the Attorney General's offices. The goal here is to ensure that the draftspersons at the offices are aware of the contents of the legislation, they understand the reason, the purpose, they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. It also is helpful for them because the legislation is highly specialized. And so some of the terms are quite esoteric, and it really assists them and assists us to ensure that they understand some of the terms and they understand the reason, the rationale, the policy behind the framework, so that when they are introducing this to Cabinet, there will be a seamless transfer of that knowledge, and enactment of that legislation would be easier.
And it's necessary for the ECCb to go around to the different member countries because we are multi-state central bank.
Correct.
So the legislation has to be passed.
It has to be passed. We would like it to be passed sooner rather than later. We're shooting for the end of the second quarter of this year. We also have regulations that would be issued under that principal legislation, and those regulations are the electronic retail payment services regulations.
So Jill, we've spoken about the legislation, but I know that the modernization strategy for the payment system has several other components. What are some of those?
The strategy was developed around 5 pillars. The first is the legal and regulatory framework. The second is wholesale financial market infrastructures. The third is retail payment systems and services. The fourth is cross-border payments and international remittances. The fifth is the ECCU payment system oversight and cooperation. Some of these strategy is in train. Clearly, there are things we're doing because I spoke to the legislation and the regulations that we are trying to finalize and get enacted. And some of it is aspirational to the extent that we need external partners to support us, and to the extent that we are still in the conceptualization mode of figuring out what we need to do and when we need to do it.
Gillian, apart from the legislation which you just spoke about, what else is happening in terms of the modernization strategy?
As it relates to our oversight role, we are in the process of finalizing an on-site policy framework for the proper oversight of the financial market infrastructures. We are also developing manuals, templates for reporting, and we are building capacity constantly within the department and within our unit to ensure that we are in the best possible position to have a good oversight, robust oversight of the payment system.
Now, is there a role for the public to play in this modernization strategy? We've spoken about the ECCb as regulator and the different players within the payment system. What about the public?
The public at large is a part of the payment system. The public uses the payment system. The public relies on infrastructures to transfer and make settlements. And so the public has, from the very beginning, been at the center of what we're doing. We engaged a broad section of stakeholders across the ECCU, and this was during COVID, and so we had to do it remotely. We're now engaging them again to introduce them to the strategy that has been developed with their assistance. We took what they said, we heard them, and we incorporated it into our strategy and into the vision of the payment system. The central bank has always been the overseer of the payment system, and that was established in law in 2008. In that legislation, the 2008 legislation, the focus there, and we were no different from the rest of the world, the focus there was on the infrastructure, it was on the system as a whole, and it certainly made provisions for designation and basics in settlements such as netting and finality and that sort of thing. This new legislation focuses on people, and it focuses on payment service providers. We want to ensure that end users are protected, we want to ensure that our consumers are protected, and we want to ensure that if it is you are coming to the market with a new service, that you must have proper systems in place, their corporate governance requirements, their capital adequacy requirements, and most importantly, there's a licensing framework. That licensing framework sets out all the requirements for which a license can be granted, or upon which a license can be granted.
Gillian, we know that financial system has evolved to now take into account technology, digital and electronic payments. How does the new payment system legislation take those advances into account?
So we try to reimagine the payment system space, and by so doing, we sought to cater to technologies that we may not even be aware of. And when I say cater, I mean in terms of a license, in the sense of licensing. So we have a section, for instance, in the bill that speaks to financial innovation. In that section, we allow payment service providers to pilot a project for 6 months, and we at the central bank would be authorized to extend the period if required. And if it is in the public interest, if it's not injurious to the payment system or the financial stability, that person can apply for a license under the Act. So we tried very hard, and I think we were successful in allowing ourselves that flexibility to respond in a dynamic environment.
Correct. Gillian, that's good to know, because I think we all can see that we have far to go. Innovation is at the top of everyone's mind, and more developments and advances will come.
Yes.
Now, talk to us about what are the next steps in terms of the modernization project.
Well, the most urgent and the highest priority we can accord would be to the legislation, to get the legislation enacted. It underpins everything that we want to do and everything that we are required to do from an oversight role. I believe that we will always be in a modernization and developmental role. Certainly we have our oversight agenda, and these things are ongoing. We're very excited about what is happening in payments now. We have the full support of the Attorney General's offices. We've been impressed with the level of support that they've given us in finalizing the legislation, and we are looking forward to speedy enactment of that law.
Gillian, thank you so much for speaking with us on ECCb Connects.
You're welcome.
And now for this week's financial tip.
Develop a habit of saving by setting aside small amounts regularly. Be consistent.
That's it for this episode of ECCb Connects. In today's program, we discussed that a payment system is the means by which financial transactions are settled by transferring monetary value. The project to modernize the payment system in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union is designed to ensure that a safe, efficient, accessible, and state-of-the-art payment system exists. The immediate next steps for the modernization project is to enact legislation across all 8 ECCb member countries. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to join us next week when we bring you another episode of ECCb Connects.